Hello, and welcome to the Is It Just Me podcast. I am your host, Dr. Angie Inch. This podcast will entail truthful, transparent conversation about everyday life and the lessons learned. This podcast is for everyone, from teenagers to the elderly. Although some topics discussed may be rated R, each topic is based on living life and learning life lessons. But with Father's Day approaching, I felt like the topic that needed to be discussed would be fathers and what makes a good father. Some individuals and what they feel makes a good father may not be the same qualities that you might feel makes a good father. I'm going to discuss the qualities that I feel make a good father. Although the qualities that make a good father may differ amongst individuals. So, what may make a good father to one person may not be the same qualities that make a good father to another person. Before I start each episode, I like to state this disclaimer that I am not an expert, and everything discussed is the independent opinion and reality of myself. When we talk about fathers, I know in my community and then growing up, a lot of individuals did not have their fathers in their household or in their lives. A lot can be attributed to why their father wasn't around. But there were some individuals who had their father in their household. And in my opinion, their fathers were good fathers based on my observation and the things that I've seen. With me being an adult and having my own children, there are certain qualities that I feel makes a good father. Now, you're going to run into individuals who may feel like they're good fathers based off whatever their qualities is and what they feel makes a good father. So, of course, the qualities are going to differ amongst people, but these are just the qualities, in my opinion, that I feel make a good father. And a good father has many qualities. Again, this is just my opinion, being involved and being hands on. You're supportive, emotionally and mentally supportive, and you lead by example. So when I say a good father, I mean your father was there. You have stories and you have memories and you can recollect of all the times that your father showed up for you. He was there. He was involved. He supported you. He respected you. He communicated with you. He did all of those things. And if you did something wrong, he disciplined you. He provided for you. Now, I know there are going to be some individuals who feel like their father probably was there financially, but wasn't there physically. And in my opinion, that does not make a good father. Just because you're providing money doesn't mean you're a good father. I know there are some fathers who do not have the funds, but they have the time and they spent the time and they were there and they showed up for their kids. Those are good fathers because sometimes things happen in your life where you may not have the money to provide for your kid, but you have the time. So you're showing up, you're picking them up from school, or you're dropping them off at school, you're home, you're helping them with their homework, you might be preparing dinner. So when they need help with something, you're there for them. You're more hands on and actively involved, but you don't have the finances at the time to meet their wants. You're meeting their needs with little finances you have, but you're not meeting their wants. And to me, that makes a good father because you're hands on, you're meeting their needs in other ways. You're just not meeting their wants. Again, we're only talking about my opinion, and these characteristics that I'm going to list are based on what I feel is a good father. And the first characteristic I feel that makes a good father, I just spoke on, is involvement. Being present and being active in your child or your children's life. And when I say present and active, I don't mean you pop up every 6 months or once a month you showing up or you calling or you texting or you not texting or they reaching out to you. When I mean involved, I mean you're being present and you're active. It's a two-way street. And I know once kids get a certain age, certain parents feel like, oh, well, my kid can call me, which is true. Your kid can call you, but you, as the parent, as the father, you should be stepping up and being active, actively involved and present in your child's life. You should be attending events, big and small events, practices if they're in any extracurricular activities or they play any extracurricular sports. You should be going to practices, going to games, showing up in their life for big and small things. That's what being involved is, and that's one of the qualities that makes a good father. The second quality that I feel make a good father is you being supportive of your child. And when I say supportive, I mean you're providing emotional support for your child through good and bad. Now, that is very vague and very broad. When I say providing emotional support, I mean if they had a bad day and they came to talk to you, you're the listening ear. You're not dumping on them and you're not making it worse. You're listening to them because sometimes as parents, we do not stop and listen to what our kids are saying because we be so engrossed and so busy with our own lives that we don't step back and take a moment to listen to what our children are telling us. Fathers do the same thing. I know as a mother, I have done that. I have been so into my own stuff and worrying about what I'm doing that I'm not actively listening to something that my child has been saying to me. So, and being a good father, you have to be supportive, providing that emotional support through good and through bad times. Another quality that I feel, again, we're talking about my opinion. This is all my opinion, but another good quality I feel a good father has is discipline. And when I say discipline, I'm saying you're being fair when you're disciplining your child. You're teaching your child or your children that there are consequences for their actions. You're teaching them to be accountable. Now, when I say discipline fair, I mean there are no double standards when you're disciplining your kids. So I know with us, when I say us, in my generation, when we were growing up, it was more so do as I say, not as I do. So your parent will tell you to do something or not to do something, but they're doing it. And in turn, they're telling you, oh, you do as I say, not as I do. As time has gone on, that has been proven not to be so effective. And what's more so effective is leading by example and being fair when you're disciplining your kid. So if your kid did something and you're getting after them for doing something, it's something that you can honestly, wholeheartedly say that you were fair in disciplining them and you were letting them know these are the consequences for your actions because you did X, Y, and Z. By teaching them that there's consequences for their actions, you're teaching them to be accountable. So they're going to grow up to be accountable adults to take criticism and to understand that there are consequences for their actions. Another quality that makes a good father to me is being respectful. And not only being respectful to the child, but being respectful to the child's parent. Whether you're with your child's mother or not, you have to show some level of respect. There are some people when they get older, they're like, oh, I saw my father disrespect my mother. That's why I disrespect females. But to me, that's a crock of shit, by the way. But I do understand sometimes people mimic what they learn or what they see. However, being a good father, you're being respectful, showing them, which is your child or your children, respect, and you're showing the mother of your children respect as well. Another quality that I feel is important and makes a good father is being able to communicate. And I'm noticing that comprehension is not everybody's strong suit. So when I say communication, I mean you're listening to your child to comprehend what they're saying. You're not just listening to respond to what they're saying to you. There's a big difference. And I used to think that reading was fundamental. Now I really feel like comprehension is like key because people can read. So many people can read. The issue is they can't comprehend what they're reading. So when you're communicating as a father to your child, you are listening to comprehend, not listening to respond. And you verbally express love and pride when you're communicating with them. You're giving them accolades and you're letting them know how much you love them and how proud you are of them when they do something good. Another characteristic that or a quality that I feel a good father should have is he should be a provider. Now, when I say a provider, I'm not saying you're making sure you're just providing financially. When I'm saying a provider, I'm saying you're making sure that all of your child's needs are met, not their wants, but their needs. Do they have a place to stay, a roof over their head? Do they have food on the table? Do they have clothes on their back? Do they have the emotional support that they need? Are they mentally stable? Are they surrounded by people who are displaying positive mental health? That's a provider. I'm not just talking about the financial part because a lot of people get it twisted. And since the beginning of time, the man's role was supposed to be the provider of the home. And with people using that to define what a man is as being the provider, a lot of things got lost. And I do understand that, yes, the man is the head of the household, he is supposed to provide, but life happens and life is just life in. And sometimes things happen where he cannot be that financial provider, but however, he's checking off everything else on the box, but his finances aren't together. That does not make him a bad father because he doesn't have the finances to meet your wants. If you have a roof over your head, you have food on your table, and you have clothes on your back, he's showing up for you, he's involved, he's supportive, he's respectful, he's communicating. That is a good dad, and that is a provider. Just because he doesn't have the finances to provide your wants, a lot of females teach their children, oh, he ain't shit, or he ain't this, or he broke, or he this. And he very well may be broke after taking care of his basic needs and his children's needs. But as long as their needs are met and he has happy, loving children and he's a provider, that's a good quality. And that makes a good father. We get so caught up in finances. Everything now, and I know with most people in this generation, everything is about a dollar and finances. I've always told people it's not about the money when it comes to raising children and trying to be a good father or a good parent in general to your children. It's not always about money. Do you need money? Absolutely. But is everything always about money? No, it's not. Because I will take somebody who didn't have the money and couldn't provide everything that my children wanted, but they were able to give the time. They helped me. They picked the kids up from school. Like we had a great co-parenting relationship where, okay, I'm working and I'm doing this. You're working part-time, but you can pick the kids up. You can take them to practice. You can be at every game. You can be there to support them. I will take that over you throwing me money my way because a lot 9 times out of 10, when somebody is solely the financial responsible person, they don't have the time to help and put in other places for the children. They can't take them to practices or they can't come to all of the games. So you as their mother, it falls on your shoulder. But again, if the father is not fully able to meet just their wants and they're able to meet their needs and they're also able to be hands-on involved, supportive, and they're there, that in my opinion makes a good father. Also, what makes a good father is being their role model. So you're leading by example. You're being the person that you would want your children to grow up to be. So you're leading by example. Everything that you're teaching them and everything that you're and trying to instill in them, and they possess those qualities when they grow up and they display those qualities, you're happy and you're good and you're content that your child is going to grow up to be that person. You have to lead by example. You, again, this is not the generation like we were raised, or let me say we, I keep saying we, that I was raised in, where everything was do as I say, not as I do. Now you have to lead by example. You have to show your child this is what you want them to be because this is the type of individual you want them to grow up to be. This is the type of qualities that you want them to grow up to have. And sometimes, even with you doing all of those good things, you might fall short and your child might go far left. It happens. But as long as you know that you, as a father, you were a good father and you possessed the qualities, you were involved, you were supportive, you provided discipline, you were respectful, you communicated with them, you were the provider, and you were a role model. If your kid was to stray left, you know that you did everything in your power the right way for them to go the right way. So you should sleep well at night. It's so many layers to life and there's so many layers to being a parent that there isn't one set way to be a parent. There isn't one set standard of qualities to have to be a good father. But what I do see is in my community is a group of fathers who grew up without fathers think that it's okay to not be fathers to their children when they didn't like not having a father, but then you're going to grow up, have kids, and not be a father to your kids. So you're basically putting that same trauma on your child that your father put on you. When do you turn it around and you say, you know what? I'm not going to be the father that my father was to me. I'm going to be better. And I think when we sit down and we decide to have that conversation and we decide to self-reflect and we decide to look at those qualities and the what makes a good father, we will start to have good fathers who are involved, supportive, disciplined, respectful, communicate, providers, and role models so that when they do decide to have kids, that they display those same qualities and so forth and so on. But because we have so many fathers who are displaying the bad qualities, it's hit or miss when those children decide to have kids. It can either go good or it can go bad. And once you have the qualities to be a good father and you pass those qualities on to your children, we will start to see a cycle of good fathers in our community. There's a lot of other layers of things that contribute to individuals not being good fathers, and I don't want to point the blame and take off the topic that we're discussing, which is fathers. But it takes a lot to deal with certain things and unpack a lot of traumas and things like that so that you can be a good father to your child. With Father's Day coming up, I would like to shout out all of those good fathers out there that are actively involved in their children's life, that are supportive, they provide discipline, they're respectful, they communicate, they're the providers, and they lead by example. I salute you, and please keep doing the damn thing and keep doing the good job that you're doing. And I would like to say happy Father's Day to all of the good fathers out there. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Is It Just Me podcast.